Hey folks, in this lecture we are going to learn a very critical topic for both real-life system administration and the RHCSA exam. We are going to understand the Linux boot process and how we can reset the root password if we lose access to our system. First, let's understand what the Linux boot process actually is. Booting means starting the system and loading the hardware components along with the operating system so that everything runs properly. However, sometimes during the boot process, errors can happen. The bootloader might get corrupted, kernel errors can occur, or maybe we forget the root password, or the system might simply refuse to start due to some issues. In such situations, we need to interrupt the normal boot process and use modes like rescue mode or emergency mode to fix the problem. And this is extremely important from the RHCSA exam point of view as well. If you get any boot troubleshooting task in the exam, you will be able to confidently solve it. Even in real life scenarios, especially when you are working on production servers and the system is not booting up, this knowledge is very useful. Before we start the practical part, let's also understand what GRUB is. GRUB stands for Grand Unified Bootloader. It's the first screen that appears when the system starts. It allows us to choose the kernel version, modify boot parameters, or enter into rescue or emergency mode. Now about rescue mode. Rescue mode is a minimal environment mainly used for recovery purposes. It allows you to perform administrative tasks such as repairing file systems or resetting passwords when the system can't boot normally. Emergency mode is even more minimal than rescue mode. It gives you the most basic environment with only the root file system mounted. It is mainly used for critical repair tasks when almost nothing else is working. Now let's begin our practical demonstration.
Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on that like button if you like my video. Also click on that notification bell. Thank you.
First, I restart my Red Hat virtual machine. As the system reboots, I keep my eyes on the GRUB menu. When the GRUB screen appears, I press the down arrow key to pause the boot process. This is important because if you don't interrupt the process, the system will boot automatically into the default target. Once the GRUB menu is paused, I press the E key on my keyboard. Pressing E allows us to edit the boot parameters for the selected kernel. This is very useful because we can modify the boot options temporarily without changing permanent settings. Now I down the arrow key and look for the line that starts with Linux. At the end of this line, I carefully type rd.break. This command tells the system to break during boot and give us a temporary root shell environment before switching to the main root file system. It's important to know that you always type rd.break at the end of the Linux line in the GRUB editor. That's where we interrupt the boot sequence. After typing rd.break, I press Ctrl and X together. This command boots the system with the modified parameters and drops me into an emergency shell. On the screen, I now have a basic shell prompt. Here I type the command mount hyphen or remount comma rw/assist root. This command remounts the root file system in read and write mode so that we can make changes. Right now, I am working in the initramfs environment, which is a temporary environment before the real root file system is loaded. Next, I type chroot/sysroot. This command changes my root environment to the actual system's root file system. Now I am effectively working inside my actual Linux installation. At this point, I have full administrative access. Here, I can perform many critical recovery tasks like resetting passwords, repairing configurations, or fixing corrupted files. Now, I type passwd root. This command starts the process to reset the root user's password. I type the new password and then confirm it by typing it again. The system confirms that the password was successfully updated. After resetting the password, I need to make sure SE Linux relabeling happens properly on the next boot to avoid permission issues. For this, I type the command touch /.autorelabel. This creates a hidden file that triggers SE Linux to relabel all files during the next reboot. Now I type exit to exit from the chroot environment. After that, I type exit again to exit the emergency shell. These two exits will restart the system. As the system reboots, I see the normal boot process happening. Once the system finishes booting, the graphical login screen appears. I log in using the root account and the new password I just set. And it works perfectly because the root password has been successfully reset. That's it. In this lecture, we have learned how to interrupt the boot process, enter the emergency environment, and safely reset the root password. We covered what the Linux boot process is, what GRUB is used for, and how rescue and emergency modes help us recover a system. These steps are essential for RHCSA exam tasks and critical production troubleshooting. Keep practicing this process so that you become confident in handling boot issues. See you in the next one.